Hello and welcome back. So right now we're going to get into coding and how to build neural networks on a cloud environment. So we're going to be using Datalab throughout the rest of this mini course. Why? Because this provides a consistent experience for everybody regardless of what kind of machine you're using. So whether you're using a MacBook, a Windows PC, Ubuntu installed somewhere, we are going to be able to do things exactly the same way for everyone. If you follow these instructions, you'll be experiencing a consistent experience. That's pretty important for us right now because what I don't want to happen to you is for you to spend 2 days just debugging the installation of Python and Jupyter and TensorFlow and like everything else on your local machine. So I think this XKCD comic really makes the point nicely here. So what is Google Cloud Datalab? It's a way to run Jupyter notebooks. If you haven't encountered Jupyter notebooks yet, they're amazing. They've really revolutionized how you can document and share your machine learning work. Well, any Python coding work, but machine learning work specifically, it's great on Jupyter notebooks. So it's a way of running Jupyter notebooks on Google Cloud Platform. It interacts really nicely with BigQuery, ML Engine, Google Compute Engine, and storage. That just makes it easy for you to work with very big data sets and to use compute on the cloud instead of being limited by the amount of RAM on your own machine. Datalab itself is free, but it runs in a paid virtual machine instance. So one of the reasons why we've also gone with Cloud Datalab is because there is a free trial that will give you $300 worth of credits when you sign up. If you're in the Philippines, something to be aware of is that we tried signing up with those virtual debit cards, Paymaya, Gcash. It doesn't really work. It seems to want like a real Visa, MasterCard to like give you the free trial. So just so you're aware of that. So let's go ahead and do this and follow along. So this is my GCP project. I've created a new project for this DOST recording session. We're not going to go too deeply into GCP. It's a cloud platform. If you're familiar with Amazon Web Services, it's pretty much exactly the same thing, but with a nicer interface, and like BigQuery itself is awesome. So the only thing we are really going to care about right now is the compute engine. You'll notice now we have no virtual machine instances running. We are going to start by opening up Google Cloud Shell. Simple link up here. This is pretty neat because it allows you to fully, just through your browser, interact with GCP on a command line level. So Datalab, we're trying to create a Datalab instance here. It has like nice doc strings here. If you just wanted to create a Datalab instance, Datalab create. We can also select our zone. So let's actually take a look at our gcloud compute zones list. We want to choose somewhere near us. Here we go. All right, Asia Southeast 1. Datalab create. We want to also select a slightly more powerful machine. By default, we're going to get the N1 standard one with one virtual CPU. It's a little bit underpowered, so let's go with machine type N1 standard for zone Asia Southeast 1. And let's call this project Deep Learning Rec Session. So as you can see, I'm actually deleting a previous machine. I was using it to dummy test a few things earlier. And it didn't work. And I'm not sure why. Anyway, let's... Alright, there we go. That seemed to work a little bit better. Alright, creating the instance. We're just going to have to give it a minute here. Alright, sorry for that slightly awkward transition. So once we had created our Datalab instance, I needed to wait about 2 minutes to connect it. Now the connection to Datalab has been created. So the Datalab command creates a specialized type of virtual machine. So we can now see in my list of VM instances one named Deep Learning Rec Session. Now, you may be tempted to SSH into it from here, but that's not actually the best way of connecting with it. What we can do, so we're now connected to that Datalab instance. Let's disconnect. Let's disconnect entirely. And what we're going to do is to list our available Datalab instances. This should just give us one, Deep Learning Rec Session, and we are going to type Datalab connect. Deep Learning Rec Session. Now the nice thing is you can connect and disconnect from this at any time, but the core virtual machine will continue running. So you could use different machines, you could tell your friend to log into it. This is an SSH connection, so if you want to connect to a different machine, you'll have to manage that a little bit, but it's quite doable. Alright, so when we connect to a machine, we can do this to start using Datalab. So over here you have a nice web preview button. Sometimes default support 8080, so you want to change it to port 8081. Hit the preview button, and in your browser it should open up a Jupyter Lab looking environment. When Datalab initializes, it does so with some built-in labs and notebooks for you to mess with. Check it out here. Let's actually create a new notebook so you can see what this is all about. If you're not familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, they are extraordinarily powerful ways of sharing your code with the world. So right here, I have a notebook, which I'm going to call Test Notebook because I'm very boring. And let me just start doing things like A equals 20. I can run code and see the results. Print A plus B. Is that cool? We can even import a bunch of libraries. Now, some of these come baked in to Datalab. So if you go through the Datalab documentation, it'll show you that NumPy, SciPy, TensorFlow, Pandas already comes baked in, so you can run stuff like this and it'll work just fine. We'll manage it for you. With all the documentation and so on and so forth. If you want to use a library that's not part of the default set, then you can quite easily do that. Just go through the Datalab instructions. Alright, so now how do we take our starter code? And actually, yeah, you can see here that our test notebook is now among the notebooks running. So we can just close that out. Now we can just leave it be. Go back here. This notebook is running. Let's just delete it. Now, how do we get our starter code for this workshop in there? So if you recall, all the code, all the exercises we have, they're on the Thinking Machines Deep Learning Workshop repository. So this is what we'll want to be working with through the rest of this course. Let's get it in by using ungit. Let's add a new remote. Workshop. Toss that in here. Oops. We want to fetch our code from that remote. Here we go. And we want to check it out. Nice, here we go. Now let's go back to Cloud Datalab. it's not there because it's in notebooks. Here we go. And here is all of our code. If you want to change the file path, don't use the default notebooks file path. You can type in your own file path. Ungit is actually quite a neat tool. Has this nice visual way for you to see previous commits and so on. And you can also push your code back out. Okay, so now that we have our code in here, let's open this NumPy notebook and get started with our next exercise.